What's up, YouTube? This is the Troponin episodes, episode 6. I'm here with Dani and David, and we're going to talk about David's rebound, Dani's peak week, and some other topics. So I think to get started, we got a question about AIs. I don't remember the exact discussion. I think they want to know how I use AIs in the off season, what we recommend.
Yeah. And I think it was kind of AIs, particularly in the context of like a fairly high test, model of you. Like basically the way that we've done things a while, and that now people look at it as the alternative to the low test model, which has become popular. But
yeah, I think the high test people seem to be healthier on it. Their mood is better. It's interesting to me that the low test thing. I mean, I think people were doing a lot of other things incorrectly that the low test kind of hid those issues, but I don't think that's the best solution. Anyways, yeah. So my general view on AIs is they're terrible. Because one, low estrogen feels like shit, and two, low estrogen is shit. It's terribly unhealthy. High estrogen is good for your, all like the androgenic side effects on your blood work. Elevated LDL, lowered HDL. All those things are really they're androgenic side effects, and so when your estrogen is too low, your lipid profile is terrible. So really what I typically recommend in the off season is basically only treat estrogen for side effects to avoid gyno. A little bit of water isn't bad. It's healthy for your joints, and a little bit of estrogen is healthy for your blood work. And and the estrogen, a higher estrogen level will predispose your body to be higher body fat. I mean, that's really why women have naturally higher body fat than men do. But you have to remember, women have higher estrogen without any androgens. If you have slightly elevated estrogen with extremely elevated androgens, your ratio, you are still in an androgenic profile. You're still going to maintain lower body fat. So the only time that really comes into play and matters is when you need to have like zero water retention and you need to get extremely low body fats, which would be the final weeks of a contest prep. But other than that, other than that, I recommend as minimal AI use or as minimal estrogen management as possible to avoid side effects. If you can go without anything, great. Even if you have elevated estrogen, if you don't get gyno or anything, your blood work's going to be better, your mood's going to be better. Your risk of injury is probably lower, your bone density is going to be higher. I mean, there's just like never-ending slew of benefits of it.
Yeah. It's funny you mention risk of injury because generally I feel like, overall genetically as far as bodybuilding is concerned, I don't think I'm like anything special when it comes to like size or leanness. But I do think genetically I have a pretty good resilience to injury. But the one time I really feel fragile is those last few weeks of prep when the AIs are at their highest dose and estrogen is low. And that's where I start to feel like, okay, I don't like, muscularly I might still feel strong, but I'm like, I should not be lifting heavy. It's just like soft tissue integrity is compromised. Plus you're tired. So it's like if you get just a little bit out of position on a heavy lift in an off-season setting, it wouldn't even register. In this scenario with low estrogen, you might like tear something.
And it just feels terrible. The people use AIs year round and keep their. I mean, I'll see guys come to me with in the middle of an off-season cycle with estrogen like in single digits. It's like you just have to feel. And they do feel terrible, but it's like I don't understand it, and it's terribly unhealthy. I've seen HDLs like of 3 and 4 in people like that. Where conversely, I see guys running, like the type of cycle I recommend, which is not a low dose, cycle. I mean, running pretty heavy doses and pretty heavy androgen if you consider testosterone and androgen with HDL. You're not going to get an HDL 70, but I've had several people above 40, which is kind of like the marker. An HDL above 40 is technically a cardiac marker, like a negative marker. It negates another cardiac issue like high blood pressure or high cholesterol. And I personally had, after the last show I did, using cardarine along with it, but using cardarine and even using really high AI use throughout prep, but because I don't use anything other than latent prep, even a week after the show, my HDL was still 34.
That's pretty much the exact same situation as me. I remember like 6 weeks after the last show, I got bloods drawn and like my HDL was, I don't know, 38, 39. I was just barely below the top of the reference range. Not that far removed from, taking Tren and crushing estrogen. I think I also attribute it to never using them outside of that scenario. And I think like that's probably one of the reasons why I generally have good bloods, even when blasting a good amount of stuff. But it's just the stuff I'm taking is just test EQ, test primo, and I haven't actually gotten my estrogen level checked anytime recently. But I'm curious to see how high it would be in the off season. But like you said, it doesn't. I don't see a reason to worry about it unless you're getting
Yeah,
gyno.
if you're not getting gyno and you're able to get in a contest shape, then
Yeah,
those are the things. The reasons to lower estrogen would be to avoid gyno and to make sure you're lean enough on stage. If you're doing both of those things, then you don't need to worry about it in the off season. And actually,
yeah,
we discussed Proviron. I think maybe in episode one.
yeah.
Proviron's actually, it's not an aromatase inhibitor. I looked it up real quick right after the show, and then of course I barely remember it now. But it has affinity for uh, the aromatase
For the
enzyme.
aromatase.
Yeah, so it doesn't
Yeah,
inhibit the enzyme, but it binds to it so that it's incapable of doing anything else really. And so it actually kind of works similar to an aromatase inhibitor.
right. Yeah, you and I actually talked about that for me too, and not like it's a SERM, but I was going to try using Proviron rather than using a SERM like Novo or Raloxifene, and we'll see how it works
We used
out.
to
But
do that in the old days. I mean, that's what people did.
yeah, I've heard a lot of other guys talk about this too, where rather than trying to lower your estrogen kind of manually or explicitly, it's better to just kind of manage the whole estrogen to androgen ratio. And so in this case, it might actually be healthier to add an androgen like Proviron rather than doing something that will lower your
Yeah,
estrogen. Which is a little bit counterintuitive because you would generally think more drugs, less health. But if you're weighing the two options, yeah, like another steroid might actually
yeah.
be
In that
healthier.
case, yeah, good point. You want to
Do you want to talk about your?
go ahead? You want to? We'll give Dani 10 minutes to fire up for. We'll end with your peak week stuff. So we got
Yeah,
about 15 minutes to recharge the batteries. We'll talk about David's rebound.
Kind of take a
Yeah,
nap.
sure. We'll
yeah,
wake you up
yeah.
when
Just
it's
fall
time.
asleep.
So how's
So
the
yeah,
rebound going, David?
good so far.
We got to.
It's
We need to do a picture in picture of you. The last topic where your face is like Skeletor, and then now it's nice and filled out a little bit.
yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say a picture in picture and do like my like day out picture sent to you versus the set I just
No,
sent to you
yeah,
for the
yeah.
rebound. Like sure, I guess
How much weight are you up now?
I'm like at 30 pounds, which seems to be. I mean, I think I've been up the first week or two every prep. I've gained about 30 pounds, but the first prep proportionally that was a lot more. So like now I'm just kind of I don't know absorbing it all a little bit
I
better
think that
or
goes into
something.
what we
Your
talked
cankles are
about.
not as bad.
Sorry, I think that kind of goes.
His cankles.
Go ahead.
She's saying that my cankles are not as
Yeah,
bad this
I think
time.
it probably plays a little bit into what we said, like how I think your weight probably won't, your off-season weight won't go that much higher than it has in the past, but your stage weight's going to continue to climb until eventually you'll reach a point where they're almost the same. And and and
Yeah,
prep is really more a matter of just dialing everything in rather than like dropping a bunch of fat because your food volume is going to be so high at 285 that starts to be a limiting factor. So you're just going to be leaner in the off season because I mean, probably right now it seems like no, I'll be able to eat, but I mean, what happens in 4 or 5 months from now? It's not quite as easy. I mean, you've
yeah,
always had a great appetite, but eventually everyone reaches the point where there's only so much chicken and rice they can shove in 7 days a week. So
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it becomes less of like a. It messes with my head less every time because I know what to expect. And there are like, you kind of see certain signs on your body that tell you you're still lean, even though you're carrying kind of a ridiculous amount of water. Like for me, like my abs will look a certain way. So even when that like lower back, lower abdomen area gets like jiggly and it's so watery, there are still parts of my abdomen that I can tell are lean. And I've got like a little. I have this weird like little bony protrusion on the back of my hip. It's weird. I went to get it checked out to make sure it wasn't like a little cancerous growth or something. So it's like an extra little piece of bone, and it becomes more and more prominent the leaner I get, to where by the end of prep it's like poking out on my belt almost painfully. And so like that's still sticking out. So that's one little marker, but and like I'll still have lines in my glutes because strangely I don't carry as
yeah,
much water there as I
weird.
do in my lower back, but yeah, I mean, it's amazing, like the change mentally and physically once you get some food in you for a few days, and So yeah, I feel pretty good, and I feel more energetic. I think I mentioned to you in my check-in though that like the energy still takes like a couple weeks to come back, and so I'll go to train. I train in the morning before I start the workday, and training will go really well, and then I'll get my meal and I'll sit in my chair, and I'll like really have to get some energy, and it's still the state where I was in during prep where I can recline back in my chair and I will be dreaming in a
Yeah.
minute. It's like this deep REM sleep that takes like 10 minutes to pull myself out of. But yeah, it's also kind of funny how the strength comes back quickly, but it doesn't come back as quickly as as like just the fullness does.
Mm.
So there was definitely a point in prep where I was lighter than I am now, but stronger. But that'll be different within like 2 weeks. I mean, it's amazing how fast the strength comes
So what are you
back.
weighing right now?
I mean, I think on my check into you, I was 265, up from a weigh-in weight of like 235, and it's been pretty consistent. I think this morning after a high day where I went to a sushi, all-you-can-eat sushi, I was like 267. So, and I expect I'll be back down to like 264-ish tomorrow because today's a low day. So yeah, it's going great. I will say that. So you sent me the rebound diet, and it's great. I have like two high days of 1,000 grams of carbs now. I'll admit, I was like, I was hoping for a bit more fat on the other days, but I'm guessing that you keep it that lower during the rebound for a reason.
Yeah, I just don't want to because we got a whole off season. I know your
Hmm.
appetite. Like it seems like there's no way it's going to be an issue right now. It's like because your appetite's so high. But
Hmm.
I played with it over the years, and whenever I do higher fat in the rebound, it seems like when the time the person comes out of the cruise, we right when we're starting our off season, we're already kind of dealing with because in that time I will kind of go higher fat, just more for health reasons and everything. And it's like it seems like right out of the gate we're already kind of dealing with like appetite issues, not bad, but where they're already like,
Hmm.
and I ask them how their appetite is. They're like, I'm good. I'm not really force feeding. I mean, I'm not excited for all my meals, but I can get them down. And it's like, man, if we're doing that on week 2 of 16-week off season, that so if I
Sure.
it seems like if I keep the fats lower, it really. I mean, your appetite's high during the rebound period, but it seems like we almost don't really kill it at all. And then you come out of the cruise and your appetite's still really good, and then we bring the fats in a little higher to keep you a little healthier through the off season, and then we don't start dealing with like a little bit of hunger stuff, until 8, 10, 12 weeks
Hmm.
into off season instead.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I know you've said before that we all like you pretty much want to be hungry during the
Yeah.
rebound as much as you can. Like, you want it's like not the most comfortable thing, but you want that hunger to. You kind of want to. It just how do you say it? You want to stay
Like
ahead of the
one
hunger. You want the
step
hunger to stay
behind,
ahead
yeah.
of you.
So like
Yeah.
your hunger's here, and we could feed you here, but then you kill your hunger hormone. So we kind of stay like one step behind. And if we like play our cards right, especially with the lower fats, your hunger will increase as we bring the calories up, and we'll kind of reach a point where eventually they cross each other, and that usually happens somewhere around like 4 to 6 weeks of the rebound. And then when that
Yeah.
happens, that's kind of it. It tells us to transition out.
I kind of already see the hunger increasing because I had like the first one of those like on plan 1,000 gram high days yesterday, and now today's a low day, and
Yeah,
I'm very hungry.
yeah, yeah. So if you time it perfectly, you can. Seems about like six
Yeah, I know.
I have no sympathy for you right now.
It's not.
thousand grams.
It's not.
Danny hasn't had a
This
thousand
is
grams
not. This is
in 8
not
days.
prep hunger. Yeah. It's yeah. It's not prep hunger by any means. Prep hunger is like a different world. This is like, oh, I'm actually like really hungry for the next
Yeah,
meal.
can't wait to eat. Yeah, if we time it right, it seems like about 6 weeks is about as good. If we nail everything, it's usually about 6 weeks. And those are like the ones you can do. Most people get 4 no matter what. But if you can really nail
Mhm.
it, and that like those things don't cross, the streams don't get crossed until like week 6. Those are kind of like those are the golden rebounds where you get those really good years of growth.
Yeah. We talk about your peak.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's much to say. I just kind of do what I'm told for the most part, minus for listeners, we talked at one point about how if you slip up on your diet, it happens. Best thing you can do is tell your coach. I texted Justin on Friday was my last high day, and I posed that morning, and I was tiny. Like, I'm literally the same weight right now that I was competing last year. And I'm like, there's no way I didn't add any mass. So I must be a lot leaner.
You are.
I started prep 15, 16 pounds heavier this year than last year, and I thought leaner.
Yeah. You are very lean right now. You're very, very lean. There's no fat on your body.
Yeah, my feet tell me that every time I
Yeah,
get up.
you're
I'm like,
you're quite a
ow.
bit leaner than last show. Man, and you were in great shape
Um,
last show, but you're quite a bit leaner.
yeah, so I posed Friday morning, and I was with again Branch and Martin, and when someone like Branch is like, "Oh my God, like please tell me that you're eating into the show every day from now until now," like I'm like, I might get one high day today, and I'll probably have a couple low days. He was like, "When are you gonna start carving up?" I was like, "Probably Wednesday." I got home and like I started eating, and I'm not gonna say the floodgates opened, but it was definitely one of those where I was like, I'm just freaking hungry. And I texted Justin that night. I said, hey, like, I'm probably about 80 or 100 over on the day. Should I stay on plan? Should I stay on course? And he said, yep, stay on course, send pictures. And so just know that, like, no matter where you are as an athlete, you're still a human. And people ask me all the time, like, how do you just stay on point all the time? I'm like, I don't. Like, I do my very best to make the best decisions I can. But the hardest thing for me last week, honestly, was the fact that Dave was on his 5 day high day, like cheat meals, everything. I'm freaking starving. I feel like I'm moving constantly. Um, I think that was harder for me. That by the time the high day came around, I was like, I just wanted to eat. I was like, I'm not an anxious person, but I actually had like a couple of like anxiety attacks just being in our kitchen while Dave was trying to like make food, and that's really
Well, you want
not
to know what's
normal for
funny
me.
is you really kind of like I went I went back and forth when we did like when we kind of planned you like what to do from 7 days out, and you were right on the cusp with where you were of getting too depleted, but you were coming down quickly. I almost gave you extra carbs that day anyways, so that's why when you sent it to me I was like, that kind of actually worked out because I was debating it anyways. So you kind of did what like I was like on the fence of going with anyway. The only reason I didn't is because you are in such good shape. As a coach, this is where it's hard because like uh, you I want to make sure that you get to show that because that's a lot of work. Because we could bring you in super super full and a little soft, and it'll be a great look. But it's like, man, you could have saved a lot of hunger and a lot of work to bring that same look on stage. So like, I want to make sure you're the hardest on stage. So like all the effort you put in. So that was my like back and forth with. I like almost gave you extra. Almost said like add 150 grams of carbs to this day. But then I think I even one email I typed it and then deleted it, and I thought, well, like, so it ended up working out perfect. I mean, just like luck of the draw that it happened. But and the fact that like that it did happen means it was the right choice because it's not like you wouldn't have done that unless your body was really really asking for it.
And I think the one other deviation I noted at one point was like I had an extra 20 grams of chicken on one day during prep. Everything else has been really on point for the most part. Um,
Can I butt in
so
really
like,
quick? That's like if you could like how do you tell a good client? That's like anyone who's coached knows this, but there are two different clients. There are in my check-in think template, it's like any deviations, and there'll be people no pretty much on point. Where yeah, I mean, well, my buddy came over and I had a couple beers on Tuesday, and then my wife cooked homemade pizza, so I mean I didn't even have a whole slice of ham, but so pretty much on point. I would say like 95%. And then there's other people who are like, any deviations? Yes, I'm sorry. I've measured out 10 almonds, one fell on the counter, and I just ate it. So I had an extra almond. It's like there's two
yeah,
different.
mine was like it was 2:30 in the morning. I'm not sleeping at all right now. It was like 2:30. I was like, my stomach has just hurt, like pain for the last like fucking 3 hours. And I'm like, I just need something in it so I can sleep a little bit. And I was like, I could make some egg whites so I can have a little bit of chicken. I was like, I'm just gonna have a little bit of chicken, and that's what happened.
Yeah, no, it worked out because I
Um,
was on the fence. I debated giving you. I was gonna say 150 grams spread out evenly. I think I even typed in an email and I was like, oh, if I do that and like she's not bone dry on stage, then I'll feel terrible. And
and my concern was like, did I just f this up? And that's why I was like, the only thing as an athlete you can do at that point, and the best thing you can do is just tell your coach, because the plan is a plan, but ultimately as a coach you have to go off of data, right?
yeah, we can fix anything.
And
I mean, that's the beauty of it. If we understand how the body works, I mean, there's a time, like if it happens, too close to the show, there's not much we can do, but you can fix anything, and the important thing is you don't fix it is really what you do, because
Mhm.
fixing it is what ends up, trying to fix things is usually what ruins things. But yeah, I mean, if you tell me there's nothing is too bad. I mean, it could be too bad, but nothing. I know what type of person you are. You're gonna have extra chicken. You're not gonna eat, 12 donuts. But yeah, if you tell your coach,
Well, there was a cereal incident.
uh,
My first prep, I ate literally. It was actually a day. It was a check-in day, and I hadn't got my check-in back yet. And I was like, I'm just gonna have like one bite of cereal, and it ended up being an entire box of Cocoa Pebbles, a bowl of granola, like half a box of graham crackers. I mean, it was like truly
I
floodgates
remember that.
open.
I came back from I was fishing with your
Oh
dad,
God, yeah.
and I came in the door, and you were like started crying. I'm like, what happened?
And I was like, I ate some cereal, and you were
I was
like,
like, well,
how
how
much?
Like a bowl?
A
Like
whole box.
are you pregnant? No, it's cereal.
um, but yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, I went to go pose on Saturday, and I was worried that I was gonna be watery and that I'd ruined my look. I was worried I wasn't gonna show my conditioning. I was, of course, right? Like, of course, you worry these things as an athlete, especially after feeling like I have killed myself to get here. But posing actually, like everything just came out harder. Lines came out better, and so I don't know. I don't think I messed
No,
anything
no.
up.
Like I said, I was on the fence of giving you 150 extra grams of carbs, like debate, like went back and forth, went back and forth. So when you sent me that text, I was almost like, oh, good, because because I the only reason I didn't do it is because you were flat and you were getting too flat. The only reason I didn't is because I would feel terrible as a coach if you got on stage and even if you look great in one, if you didn't show that conditioning, because there's like a lot of work that goes into that conditioning. So you want to, it's like,
I just hope it still shows.
oh, it will. No, yeah, I mean, that was, like I said, like, just like what Branch said, like, you're ready. So now we just got to make sure we don't over deplete you. I went back and forth.
I'm actually a
I have
little
no
worried.
idea what your 2 day out, your main carb up day is going to look like either, because I changed that. I set 7 different carb amounts, I think, before I finally set repeat.
Yeah,
So we're gonna just go
I
meal by meal that day.
so even like just now we took a little break and I got on the scale, and like midday 2 gallons of water in and one meal left. I'm weighing almost like basically what I did this morning. I'm gonna be tiny tomorrow, and then tomorrow's another low day.
Well, yeah.
So,
So
but at this point again, like I know that as a smaller competitor, I know I'm undersized, and so the best thing I can do is come in hard, conditioned, and find a way to show it. And it's the kind of thing where I think, as an athlete, again, you want to. It's not about the food. It's about getting to the stage and bringing in a look that you really want to do to win, right? And I think so many people get fixated on the food and thinking about what they'll get to eat, what their carb day is going to look like, and I think for me, especially because there is, kind of a line on this show. I don't. The plan right now is Chicago, and then 2 weeks after Chicago is Tampa Pro, and then a week after that is Texas Pro. There are big girls doing Tampa and Texas. So for anyone listening right now, if I'm going to do well at a show this year, it's very likely going to be Chicago. I don't know that I have a shot at Tampa and Texas. So for me, it's kind of like I'm going to do whatever I need to do to look the way that needs to be looked on stage. And I think that when you've been dieting for a long time, so many people get caught in the mindset of thinking about what they get to eat. They start thinking about the food, which is totally natural. And like hence the true panic attack I had watching Dave make cream of rice. I mean, like literally out of nowhere. I'm not a super emotional person. I just started sobbing. Dave was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I just need to leave."
and cream of rice too. That's disgusting. Cream of rice isn't even good.
Oh my god, I would go ham on some
Yeah.
cream of rice and
Cream of
raisins
rice.
right now.
I would eat cream of rice any time of the year.
Oh boy.
I know everyone likes cream of rice.
Um,
I don't. I just can't get that to taste. I don't like the. I don't know what it is.
and see, on the carb up day, I'd so much rather have hot cereal like cream of rice or oatmeal than regular rice.
Yeah. Oatmeal. Oatmeal.
But
I like. There's something I never. I don't know what it is. I'll take grits over cream of rice, but
weird.
I like them all. I don't discriminate.
Yeah, I mean, I should say I don't like. I eat cream of rice. It's not like I dislike it, but it's just not. It's not the one I'd cry over. Now, like cheesy grits, I would cry over if if I watched someone make those and I was a
Well, like, so I sent Justin a video of some posing the other day, and Dave is sitting in the background
just
just like
mouthing.
licking his spoon of cream of rice, and I saw that in the mirror as I was posing, and I was like, all right, you have two options right now. You zero in on what you want, or you zero in on what you think you want in the moment.
He was doing that.
And
He was doing like the fat boy. He wasn't holding the spoon
oh,
like
he
sophisticated.
fat
He
weights.
was just
He fat weights.
That was that 175 gram carb post
He
workout
fat
meal.
weights. And
Yeah,
it's especially now when he's got some extra water and you're a little mouth breathy.
I know. I know. It'll probably
I'm
come
like,
through on this
it did
podcast.
last
you
time.
know.
It did the
I know.
recap.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, I I think the hard thing for me with this peak week right now is not so much I mean, like I'm exhausted and like I went on my second walk today and I was like, don't fall off the treadmill. Um, but for me, the harder thing is making sure my mind's in a good place to where I come out on stage and I bring the energy the judges want. It's less about the food and more about actually competing. Like I love to compete. Every sport I've ever played, every meet I've ever done, everything. I'm always there to compete. And bodybuilding's just different in that way. It's harder to tap into that because there's a different level of baseline
Yeah,
depletion
because
going into that.
it's like it's a different competition. I mean, it's still a competition, but it's not go out there and get
And
fired
you
up
know,
and be and do some physical action event.
yeah, and you have no idea who you're going to be standing next to. So, like, I was sitting there looking at my ab thigh, and I'm like, okay, well, if I stand one way, I get some really, really deep cuts coming out in, like, my rec fem, sartorius. But if I stand another way, I look more balanced on both legs. So, are the judges going to want to see super, super hard detail on one leg, and maybe one quad doesn't look as good, or they're going to want to see balance? Is it going to depend on who I'm standing next to? And it's so hard not to overthink those things. And I think just, again, like, I've only been on stage
Yeah,
twice.
that's what's
So,
it's crazy. Is that yeah? I mean, most people are like their third show. They're finally doing the open, at the state show.
I don't know. I asked after the podcast a couple weeks ago. I asked you, Justin, do I actually have a shot at potentially winning this? And you said, yeah. I mean, size might be a concern, but if you come in conditioned and you show it well, you pose big.
You are
Um,
in true contest condition. I mean, like glute strided. There's no not even like there's you can get like strided glutes like when you dry out, and there's still like the fat over it, but that water's gone and the fat's not thick, the fat's thin enough that you can see that you have the striations even with the water over it, and there's your lower back's crisped up. Kind of like the final thing is even after strided glutes is where on your back where your Christmas tree comes in and then kind of goes into the glutes and then you have the upper outer glutes and then you have the obliques and they kind of all like meet in the same area and
yeah,
that is very, very, very rarely they all meet at a point where you can see the lines, and you'll have that.
cool. Just with drying out and
Yeah, I mean
whatnot.
you already almost have it. I mean, yeah, without drying out. So yeah, I mean yeah.
I I told you in my check-in this week. I don't know that I've ever wanted something so bad in my life, and it's this is probably the first time I've ever done anything where I have actually come out and said, like, this isn't a stupid, ridiculous goal. Who sets this goal and comes out and says they want to do this? And to admit it out loud is a really scary, arrogant sounding thing. Um, so I think that, for me, just as an athlete and as a coach too, I always want to model for my clients what it looks like to set the bar high for yourself. And that's something historically I'm not very good at. I don't set the bar high enough. I come from a place where failure was never an option. So it was like, let's just set the bar just a little bit low. Even if it's higher than most people, you can hit it. Um,
Yeah, I think
so
that's where you live life is on that edge where like it's too much. There's no way. How am I going to get this done? How am I going to do this? And you're like, you can't tell if you're anxious or excited or nervous or scared, and you're all of them at the same time. And that's like, I mean, you only get. I mean, life goes pretty fast. You don't get that much time. I mean, it really does. It's like I was like a kid. Like trying
yeah,
not to get manhandled by crazy Tom just like last week. It feels like but
yeah,
where now like or like my kids were babies. Now they're going off to college, and so you don't get that much time, and so you might as well you know, you can live the easy life, or you can live like the exciting life. I don't know the word for it, but that right on that edge, that razor's edge, where you're afraid you're doing too much. You don't think there's any way you're going to accomplish it all, and you just give everything you have. And then every day is a big deal. You know, it's a you know, and you're working towards like grand things. It's exciting. So,
It is. I just really hope this plays out.
well, I mean, as far as your job is getting in shape, I mean, you are in true contest condition. You were,
I need to nail my posing. Like, it's that's another one of those things that just not coming from like an aesthetic
yeah.
sport background, like a lot of their physique girls do. I'm like, I played soccer and basketball and volleyball. Like, I didn't do gymnastics and dance and all that. Um,
And it seems
and
like it
like
tends
these
to seem to matter more in the female classes too. The
so
stage
much,
presence also,
and
not just the judging, but like how you present yourself, the confidence, the like looking like you love being out there. It's kind of crappy that
mhm,
it gets us like, you know, it gets pinned to the female competitors because it doesn't really as much for the men. Maybe a tiny bit,
right,
but yeah, it's a big player in the female division.
it's huge, and that's the kind of thing that I think I'll tap into. Like, there's a picture of me on stage last year where I don't know what came over me, but I was just having a lot of fun, and I'm like, making some ridiculous face at the judges and whatnot. But afterwards, I went for feedback, and Sandy was like, "You just look like you just had a ball up there." And I was like, "Yeah, I did. I mean, I worked my ass off to be up there,
Yeah.
so I may as well enjoy it."
Heck yeah.
Um, so just hope that plays out.
So I'll talk real
Good.
quick, kind of what we're doing for your peak, I guess. So I move everyone to 6 meals, even if they weren't at 6 meals for the peak. I do just because it gives us. I mean, there's a limit. You know, you want as much ability to vary as possible. You know, if we only did 4 meals, then we only get each change is 20. Each meal is 25% of the day. So we're really limited on how frequently you can make changes. But I don't want to have people eating 8, 10 meals a day. So I just kept everyone at 6. So that's the first tricky thing with you is because there's more meals than we've been eating. So we have to redistribute the macros differently, which is a change. And I don't like changing things in the final week, but I really want to make sure we have that full ability to vary things, especially because 1 and 2 days out, we're going to be doing check-ins every meal, and we will probably. I mean, I went back. I had so many different. Your carb amount on what would be yours is Wednesday, right? Your Friday show. Your carb amount on Wednesday probably changed 7 different times before I finally ended up. So there's no way that's what it's going to end up being. I mean, it might if we like every once in a while you get like the perfect peak where we don't need to change anything, but it's very likely that'll vary quite a bit. So that's one thing. And then I think Friday I did, or I mean Thursday I did too. I think I changed your fats quite a bit. I can't remember where they're at to end with. But yours is going to be like totally when we have our baseline. But I wouldn't be surprised if we eat less than 25% of the meals, actually what they are in the plan, because I went back and forth on every meal. So it'll be interesting. But the good thing is we don't have to do anything. We're not trying to make you look different. You are shredded. We don't have to do anything. We could have you do a high day 2 days out, a medium day 1 day out, and just reduce your water, and you'll be on stage bone dry. So we're in a great position there. So we're really just doing the fine tuning things to get you as full as possible while also showing that dryness. So it'll be as far as like worry or nerves of that you have to do anything. We don't have to do anything. You're stage ready already. So we just
Yeah,
get to play with the fine tuned details to make sure you're as full as possible while also being stage ready.
feels good. Feels good. I think for an athlete just to be able to know that like every bit of work was done. Just trust your coach. So many people I think over worry those things,
hmm
and it's
Well, we've talked about that.
if you've done your
We talked about that before
what's
too.
that?
Like you don't have to worry. Like no matter what you're doing, like how hard is it? How hard do I need to be? It's you don't have to worry. If you put you're all into it, that's all you can do. And most of the time, that's enough. I mean, whatever it is, a new job, this sport, starting a business, you're like, hey, you just do as if you give your all, you did your job. You left it all on the table. And when I say give your all, I mean we've talked about that before. It's not just burying yourself. It's doing everything correctly. But if you've done everything correctly, that's it. You nailed it. So you go it like
Yeah,
that's the best position to be in because you've no regrets or concerns. You did
yeah.
everything correct.
I will say it was really cool for me this prep. At one point, I was like, I have to pull back training. Like, I just can't train as hard as I would like to right now. And that's just what it is. And it was like, as soon as that switch flipped, all of a sudden I was like, okay, that's fine. Because I compare my training to Dave's a lot. He's just a freaking machine. He's invincible till 3 weeks out. And with the autoimmune stuff I've got going on, the tendon tears I've had, things like that, this was probably the first time I haven't really compared myself to him as much, and it was really, really good. And I think everything lined up exactly to where it needed to be.
Yeah, it was
Which is
good
good.
because I don't think I was ever worried. I think you had some concerns early that you were trending behind schedule. Maybe I can't even remember back that far now. But and it,
We changed the lighting where I took my check-in pictures, and then I was like, "Oh, just kidding. My hamstrings are."
yeah. No, I was never really worried. I knew we were coming right in, and I knew we'd be. I mean, pretty much dead on. I mean, it was like, if anything, a week early. I mean, if anything, because this last week I was really debating what to do with your diet, whether or not to add some carbs on the last high day or not. But it was, I mean, it couldn't have been a better prep, really, as far as, you were ready at exactly the right time. If anything, maybe 3 or 4 days early, which that's what you want, if anything, because you're never going to nail it to the minute. We didn't have to like do any last minute panic changes. So it's like, I mean, if you could detail on paper, perfect prep. This is pretty much it. I mean, there's no perfect prep in
Yeah.
reality because prep is hard, but on paper,
Well, this is in the midst of the move, starting Team Troponin, family stuff,
New job.
new jobs,
No, another new job.
another new job. I mean, it just goes to show that prep doesn't care what you have going on. The stage really doesn't care what you have going on. I'd be really curious what things are going to look like if I don't do as well as I hope at Chicago and we end up rolling into Tampa. Like, what does that the rest of the weekend look like?
uh, it'll be more food. I mean, you're done dieting. I mean, we can't add so much that get a water rebound. And that'll be the only concern because you could gain 3 pounds of fat and still be shredded. So we have, that's 10,000 calories above what you burn that we have to play with. So it's
You could eat that.
so all it is.
I think I out Dave at at the show after his meal or her.
At Cheesecake Factory?
Yeah,
You did not out eat me.
dude, are you serious?
Well, relatively speaking, you ate out me. You ate out. I mean, I ate like 70% of the bread and the appetizers.
No, you did not.
I totally did.
No, dude, I ate way more of the flatbread than you did, and I had more of the pot stickers. You had more of the bread than I did because I was dehydrated and my heart started pounding. And I was like, "Oh God, don't have a heart attack."
All right. Well, I would admit, like relative to size, at least she's better at eating than I am, and that's impressive because I'm pretty good at eating. But
Yeah, so really, if we have to do another show, and the only reason we'll have to is if they like, what are they judging on? Their conditioning, shape, size, posing. Your shape is great. Your conditioning is great. So the only thing, and size is kind of like misleading because if you just think of size as body weight. Sorry, my phone's freezing up on me. You're still there? Okay. At a low power mode.
yeah,
If the size is pure body weight, your size is down. But this sport's weird because what looks big on stage is being shredded. So you're going to, just like you did when you turn pro, you're going to look bigger than you weigh, because of the conditioning. So, but
what I keep telling her too is that she'll look at the people that she's comparing herself to. She'll look at them and they're posting pictures of themselves by themselves, and you can. I mean, even without doing anything like Photoshop or doctoring up the photo, you can make yourself look bigger than you are. And I think maybe the stage comparisons will tell a different story.
you could take a well-angled rear double bi of yours. You look 185 pounds.
Well, I hope that you never know who's going to show up, and you could get one of these girls who, like, I don't want to. I'm just going to say, like, you could get one of these big black girls that has those really nice full round muscle bellies that I just don't have, and that's
You
not
have very
due
good
to-
shape. You have very good shape.
Well, as long as I nail posing, I'm going to do the best I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I have the best coach in the game. Justin, I think I want this maybe just as much for you as I do for me. It drives me crazy that you don't get the credit that you deserve, especially for the women's divisions.
Well,
And
I mean, I took
um,
like years off. I mean, like
but it's still, I mean, it's absolutely mind blowing to me. And as an athlete who has had her life changed by her coach, mentor, business partner, all those things, it's like I want to do anything I can to elevate the way that you have impacted Dave and I. We are so grateful
I
for you.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. So,
Sort of win.
yeah, I mean, I'm
That's-
I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm feeling good. And if anything, if like we have to go on the next show, it's going to be fun because we're going to get to like bring a really, really full package into the second show. But I don't. I mean, your conditioning is like on point right now. You. I mean,
I feel it. My feet tell me every time I get up and stand on
yeah,
them.
because
They're like, woman.
you're substantially sharper than when you turned pro, and your conditioning was really, really good when you turned pro. So, I mean, the last two check-ins you've sent in have been like astounding. I mean, the lighting's really good now too. But I mean, you're stage ready, watery. So that'll be fun.
No, better name my posing.
You don't have to qualify every compliment with "I better nail my posing." Yes, you're posing. Get it?
Well, it's hard. It's the thing you have the most control over at that point.
I know you're doing great.
All right. Well, we'll see.
All right, perfect. Well, my battery's about to die, so perfect time.
Right
All
on.
right, Coachy.
We stop the
We
recording.
appreciate you.
All right.